Was there anything else that I had to say about crossovers? I remember watching the crossovers on Disney. I was like, I didn't watch the one that had Raven in it, which I believe was Sweet Life of That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, I think it was. But I did remember watching it was Wizard Waverly Place, I think Hannah Montana on deck. I think I did remember seeing that one, and that was really fun. And then I guess the majority, half of the movies in Marvel are crossovers. That was really fun when it was first coming out, when the first Marvel movies were coming out, and then oh my god, crossover the Avengers, and now it's just becoming oversaturated. But yeah, so crossovers, really fun concept. Hello, if you've been here before, welcome back. If not, hi. My name is David. I make videos talking about media that I want to talk about. This is my horror book team up, inspired by Bookish and Bearded and Zachary Shea's video of Fantasy Battle Royale. They make teams from characters in fantasy books based off of D&D classes. And I've also made a fantasy book team up, also based off of D&D classes, as well as a sci-fi book team up as well. This one is for horror, where I focused only, or try to focus only, on horror books, because I absolutely adore horror, and I think a lot of times ensemble casts in horror are really interesting and can do a lot of interesting things, especially in like slashers or like monster movies and stuff like that. So this time I'm not basing my team off of D&D classes per se. I'm basing it sort of off of three different things. Horror archetypes, the types of characters you would see in horror movies and medium. I'm grounding it a little bit using the 6 attributes, ability scores in D&D, and also the archetypes talked about in the movie Cabin in the Woods, which I unfortunately have not seen, but I've definitely seen a lot about it. And so it talks a lot about horror archetypes and horror reoccurring patterns and stuff like that. And so I'm taking these 3 criteria to make my 6 character group. Like I said, I mostly focused on horror books because I absolutely adore these horror books, so I'd like to talk about them briefly at least. And the team that I made, I found seems to be a little bit investigation heavy, which I like because I like these kinds of characters that like investigate stuff. But yeah, let's get into it. First character on our team is going to be the athlete, which is based on strength. Usually we see these in sort of like the jock, the bully, or the muscle character. Think of RJ in The Thing, sort of like the character you turn to for like the strength parts of the story, you know? And for that, I chose Azula Hendrix from Alien Inferno's Fall by Philippa Ballantyne. And this book was so good. I've read 3 Alien novels, and this one has this. I liked Cold Forge more, but this one was the second best, and the characters here were amazing. Zula Hendrix is the leader of the Jackals, which is is it paramilitary? Is that the correct term? The Jackals are a paramilitary group that goes around killing xenomorphs. They are xenomorph killers. You can see here in the book, they're killing xenomorphs. And Zula Hendrix leads the Jackals, this team, and she is a really cool, interesting character here. Only when I was putting together this video found out that there was a game that came out a year or 2 ago, and she's the main character there, which I was really happy about, because when I first read up on Zula, I looked her up and there wasn't that much on her besides some appearances in comics. So I'm really glad that Zula Hendrix is going to be present more in the Alien media. I hope that she's in a movie at some point, because Zula is a really fun, interesting, compelling character. She obviously has military training, and she's used to dealing with danger, and she's cool, calm, and collected in the face of huge monsters that will try to kill her. And so I chose Zula as my strength-based character, the athlete, because she is the strong type of character to protect everyone. And I didn't want to go into like the bully, the jock route, the person you don't like route, because she's very likable as well. And so I wanted to include her here. Again, I forget that I have to adjust this over here. There it is. The next character archetype is the Acrobat, which is based on dexterity. Think of usually what we'd see in the slut or the cheerleader. Think of Sarah Michelle Gellar as Helen Shivers in I Know What You Did Last Summer, of the character you turn to for precarious things that need to be done, climbing, crawling, running. And so this is a character who has that sort of dexterity with them. And so for this character, the archetype, I chose Mars Matthias from The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. The Honeys is a great YA horror set in a summer camp all during the day, or like majority during the day. Like sort of like the pull of the book is that this is not set during dark, dingy, shadowy areas. Like the majority of the horror happens during the summer, which I absolutely I love this book. Mars is a gender fluid fencer, and he's very quick on his feet. He uses his fencing skills to gain some clout when he's in this summer camp. He's there trying to figure out why his sister went a little crazy and ended up dying. And he meets with the Honeys, which is a social group. And so, like, a lot of times with these sort of acrobat, cheerleader, slut type characters, they do have some sort of social connection based on because of their litheness, I would say, maybe. And so, spoilers, at the end of it, at least, Mars does become part of the Hive, which, spoilers without context, I guess, because I'm not going to explain what that means. But he becomes part of the Hive. And so he also has that sort of dexterity of like flight and like has these social connections. And I think he'd be a really fun character. He's the person you'd be like, hey, can you go crawl under that building? Can you go climb that? And he would do it. And there's like multiple scenes where he's like running through the woods, and I think that has to account for something, some form of survival in horror media. So Mars is in our team, and so now we start building our character interactions. Azula definitely is the leader type character, or at least someone who can lead, and Mars is a loner type character, but definitely with some form of connection with others. And so I think that these two personalities are very interesting with each other. And I think they wouldn't interact that much, but they definitely like look to each other as like dependable. Like Zula would look to Mars and be like, I trust you to do what you need to do. And Mars would do the same to Zula. And so I think it'd be really fun interaction there. The next character archetype is the scholar, based off of intelligence. Think of the nerd, the detective. Think of Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling in Silence of the Lambs. And I think this character is sort of inspired by or based or pulls from the same ideas as Clarice Starling. And I'm choosing Margot Green from Relic by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Childs. Margot being played by Penelope Ann Miller in the movie adaptation of this book, which was fine. The movie was fine. The book was so good, but the movie was fine. So Margot is a museum researcher. In the second book, she becomes a curator. And in both books, she helps with the investigation of whatever is happening in either of the two books. And she's like really smart. Obviously, she has to be. For this type of character, she is the smart one, the person who thinks things through. She has a biological and evolutionary perspective as well for like those types of horrors. Like I said, in the second book, she learns how to shoot a gun, so that helps her as well. And in both of these books, the Relic and Reliquary is the second book, she is never the one to leave herself behind. Like there's multiple times where the other characters like, you have to stay behind, you have to be safe. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take my gun and I'm going to take my knowledge to help you, because multiple times her knowledge saves the lives of the detectives in these stories. And so I absolutely adore how she's implemented in these stories. She does not allow herself to be a damsel in distress, but that does not take away her femininity and does not take away her womanhood. And I love Margaret Green so much. And in this sort of team, now we add someone with more rationality with herself, and with someone who thinks things through and can help focus the team in this horrifying setting. The next character archetype is the Outcast, based off of wisdom. Think of the fool, the stoner, the new kid on the block, Generally, these are characters that are off to the side of the characters and they tend to know a little bit more about what's happening, or they tend to be a little different than the entire group. They are the outcast. Think of Jamie Kennedy as Randy Meeks in Scream. He's the kind of character who knows about the meta of the world and knows what to do to survive. And generally, these characters don't tend to survive that long, but they also do tend to be fan favorites. And so for the character that I chose another different fan favorite, a different sort of caliber than Randy Meeks. I chose Henry Goodser from The Terror by Dan Simmons. Okay, I watched the show first on AMC. AMC. I watched it on HBO. Yeah, I watched it on HBO. Loved the show. The show is so good. And then like 2 years later, I read the book. The book is amazing. It's so much better than the show, but the show is also still really good. And so I have to include The Terror because it's a great historical fiction horror that I think the show loses its horror as it keeps going, but the book maintains the horror throughout the entire thing. And it's a beefy book too. So to maintain this level of tension and dread throughout the entire book is a great feat. Shout out to Dan Simmons. I don't think he needs me to shout him out, but whatever. I'm gonna put it there because it's just gonna fall. So I chose Henry Goodser, portrayed by Paul Reddy on the show, and he is I believe he's assistant surgeon on the Erebus, if I remember correctly. And then as people keep dying, he becomes the only surgeon alive left on those ships when they're stuck on the ice. And in the show, he becomes sort of like a main character. In the book, he also is sort of like a main character as well, alongside the other characters there. But he is sort of looked at as an outcast in this story because he is a little bit more educated than the other sailors. He knows about medicine, which most people wouldn't at that time. And also, he is the only one who can help them for any sort of medicine. So not only do they other him here, but they also have to turn to him for help. And so that leaves him in a very interesting, weird tension with all the other sailors. He's very soft-spoken. He thinks first and then acts second. I guess if we're looking at like classes, D&D class and stuff, he would be the healer. He's the only one in this team who would know how to heal. I think maybe Zula would have passing knowledge of healing, but definitely Goodser would be the one to be like, hey, let me set this bone that's broken. He's very kind-hearted too, and I think though he would be the archetype of the outcast, I think he would be well integrated in this team, considering Margot, who is also like a scientist, and I think he would appreciate because in 1847-ish, 46, I think, there would be no women who are working in medicine, and so I think, or at least in academia, and I think he would appreciate Margot being there as well. I think I think Mars would confuse him considering their gender fluidity, but Goodser is a very nice, kind-hearted man, and so I think he would get along very well. And then seeing Zula in this strong position of power, another woman who is in a position that you would not normally see women in, he would also appreciate that as well. And so maybe I'm putting a little bit more of a woke opinion on him than he would normally be in real life because he's a real person who died. But I'm doing the Dan Simmons version of Henry Goodser, and I would like to believe that Henry Goodser is woke. That's why he's on my team. The next character archetype is the leader, based off of the charisma, and generally this would be like the best friend, the nice guy, the boyfriend, a character who you sort of like turn to for, if not moral guidance, at least guidance as to what to do next. And there has to be some form of level of intelligence and strength alongside that, but on top of it all, it is an ability to get everyone on the same page, a sort of a charisma to that as well. Think of Bill Skarsgård as Keith in Barbarian, though he isn't sort of like the leader type, he is sort of like the nice guy type, the nice guy archetype, the boyfriend to the main character type, and usually they're one of the first people to die. And so the character that I chose is Will Navidson from The House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. House of Leaves is a book that vexes me. I adore the Davidson record sections. I could do without Johnny Truant. I don't like Johnny Truant, but he's a very important part to the entire story. And then Zampano is there. The Navidson record is the fictional video recordings of Will Navidson as he and his wife and children move into the house on Ash Tree Lane. And as we all know, the house is a little weird. He is a charismatic photographer. He was in several wars and won a lot of awards for those pictures during the wars in different locations. He has a single-minded, dogged interest on the house, and he managed to get a lot of different people to help him try to figure out the mystery of this house. And those people end up either dead or worse, but he still has this sort of charismatic allure to him that makes people turn to him and makes people want to be with him. And that sort of is what I would like to see in a leader type character. And Davidson is Navy. Most people call him Navy. Navy is one of the only people who survive at the very end of the House of Leaves. But I'm not sure if he would die first or not in our situation. But he's definitely a really interesting, compelling, charismatic loner type guy that still has like friends and family that care for him. He's so complex, and I really enjoyed him in the Navidson record. And he's a great foil, I would say, to Johnny Truant as well. And in the sort of collection of people in this group, he would clash, I think, not what's the word, not theologically, philosophically, I think maybe with Zula in terms of, whatever horrors they are experiencing. They have varying opinions of how to face them. I think Zula would be the one to be like, if it's like a monster, weird location, whatever, either leave or shoot. And Navy would be the one to be like, I want to investigate and take pictures. Margot would probably side with Navy, but stick to Zula. Mars would absolutely argue every single time that they could with Navy, but in the way of like, I respect you enough to be challenging you. Good Sir, I think, would have a really good relationship with Navy, and I think honestly Navy would have a really good relationship with everybody. But he would obviously have that sort of like clash with Zula as to, what is the right decision here. And I think eventually he would be the one to make the final decision. It's not always the best decision, but they will get it out because they have each other in this fictional situation. And last but not least, the final character archetype that I am choosing for is the Survivor, which is based on Constitution. Think of the Final Girl, the version. I wrote down Scream Queen, but I think Scream Queens also can be like the Acrobat dexterity character. Like, these are the characters that survive to the very end. They go through a lot, and they have. I chose Constitution because they have, like, I would say they like not hardy bodies, but definitely like they can take a punch, get up and run. They would be like the main characters. They would be the people who are able to survive to the very end through their scrappiness, through the actions of the other characters. And while they may not survive, they work to make sure that everyone else survives. And in the end, it would be the survivor. Think of Micah Monroe as Jay in It Follows. That is a type of character, They encompass a lot of good things. They have a handful of flaws, but at the very end, they are the sole ones to be able to survive the horrors, changed for the better or for the worse, depending on the story. And for that, I broke a little bit of rules, but I chose Aximili Esgaroth is Still from the Animorph series by K.A. Applegate. Listen, I absolutely adore Animorphs. I want to have any chance that I get to talk about Animorphs. Shout out to the Audiomorphs podcast, which is how I listen, or I've been able to read/listen to the Animorphs series. And I did Animorphs because, it's not horror per se. It's mostly science fiction, but there are definitely horrifying moments, both of when characters are transforming into animals, like they're bodily transforming, but also when they are animals, the senses they experience or the things that they have to do are really terrifying. And so I wanted to include Animorphs because of that. And I think for the entire team of Animorphs, the 6-man team there, is so compelling and interesting and would all fit in these horror archetypes. But I had to include Axe, who is the sixth member of the Animorphs team. He comes from the Andalite world. He is an Andalite himself. He is the brother of the Andalite that gave the other human children their morphing powers. I think that would make him the uncle of one of them as well, Tobias. Yes, because yeah, he's the uncle. And he's like a kid. He's like a teenager, and he acts like a teenager too. And there's some really fun moments in the books themselves where he's learning how to be a human. When he morphs into a human, it's really funny as well. And I think that with his morphing powers, which give him a form of not invulnerability, but when you morph in and out of something, you are healed. So, for example, if you're morphed into a bird and you get shot by a Dracon beam and your half of your wing has been burnt off, you morph back into the human, or for Axis case, the Andalite, the base morph that you have, the base DNA that you have, and morph back into the bird. The bird's back healed. Same thing if you're hurt in your base, say, human form, you break your leg, morph into, I don't know, a cat, and then morph back, your leg's back to normal. And so that to me has like a form of survivability added on top of your lifespan. And so I think that would be a good survivor to be able to heal yourself. Axe is also pretty scrappy. He does look to the other characters for guidance and for direction, and I think that in this team up, he would look to everyone else to help him, especially because he is a foreign alien in a foreign alien world, and he would like to survive to get back home. And so I think, in this scenario of like the 6 of these all come together, they are trying to help him get back home, or at least survive long enough to get back home, coinciding with the other horrors that are happening around them. So yeah, this is our team. This is my horror book team up. Like I said, it's a very heavy investigation forward type of team. Like Margot, Mars, and Navy would be the ones to be like, let's investigate, let's figure stuff out, let's try to figure out what's happening. And then Goodsir would just be along for a ride because he wants to help everyone not die. Zula as well would also want to make sure no one dies. Let's say in the hypothetical of this story, they begin as one team. They're not plucked from their stories. You know what I mean? I do think that the general of idea of like the archetypes and when they die, I think it would follow in terms of the first person who usually dies is either the jock or the athlete or the acrobat, in terms of the jock, the bully, the whore, the slut. I think Mars is more likely to die than Zula. I think Zula would hang on just a little bit longer. I think that Margot and Zula probably died at the same time. I think Navy, honestly, is one of the first people to die. Definitely Henry, Goodsir, and Axe would last longer, much longer. And I think that Goodsir would sacrifice himself for Axe to be the final survivor. But I can totally see an ending where all of them survive, because that's a lot more fun too, to see how all 6 of these characters work together to survive in the quote unquote horrors. You know what I mean? And just like last time, I also have a handful of incorrect quote generated as well. Goodsir. Margot, what do IDK, LY, and TTYL mean? Margot, I don't know. Love you. Talk to you later. Goodsir. Okay, love you too. I'll just ask Navy. Navy, let me show you a picture from last night that really upset me. Axe. Okay, but in my defense, Mars bet me 50 cents I couldn't drink all that shampoo. Navy, that's not what I wanted to. You drank shampoo? Goodsir. Please bring home purified water with no minerals added for taste. Zula. We got spring water. Good sir. No. Mars, with extra mineral. Zula, it's like licking a stalagmite. Good sir, don't come home. Mars, cave water. Zula, driving Axe and Margot. So, how was your day? Axe, we almost got surprise adopted. Zula, what? Margot, we almost got kidnapped. Zula, oh, okay. Zula slams on the brakes. Wait, what? And then I have the 16 incorrect quote generators that are a little too much to read, but they were pretty fun as well. So yeah, this is my final horror book team up. Let me know what you think. Let me know what characters you would have in your own horror book team up. I really had a lot of fun with this as well. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Let me know what you think about this channel and my videos. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to be passionate, and I'll see you later.